Good morning. There's really nothing like a Sunday morning, an early Sunday morning. That quiet, so quiet outside. In Hawaii, especially for a young person, Sunday morning is your chance to sleep in, to catch up with your rest, to make up for the sleep you feel that you were deprived of. And as you get older, you start to go to bed earlier on a Saturday night. So that means that the Sunday morning, the quietness is so precious. Here in Taiwan, I noticed that people don't tend to sleep in as much on a Sunday. Maybe Sunday is a family day, and they're up early to go places and do things, especially on a beautiful day. I've always been enamored of the concept or idea of completion, a beginning and an end. The idea that you can rest well with the idea of a job well done. This appeals. I like the taste and touch of it. And I use taste and touch because I feel that the body can delight in events of the mind. A great scientist, physicist, Stephen Hawking, recently passed, and it gave me pause to think or ponder, reflect on the life of this man. Not only an amazing, cutting-edge physicist, he was also a philosopher, a deep thinker of things. And being such a person, being such a being, I'm sure he was always asked questions. And I found that I really enjoyed some of his answers. A man that vision was so large that his life work was the grand theory of everything. He sought to find an explanation for all the phenomena of the universe. A worthy goal. Yes, and maybe he left his work to be completed by those that follow. But remember, he was asked a question about, does the universe end? And this piqued my attention because I've always entertained a lot of ideas about the universe. And he said, according to Einstein, see, we all have our heroes. His hero was Albert Einstein, a man of a previous century. Talked about the space-time continuum, and his concept was that it was bent. So Mr. Hawkins, Professor Hawkins, likened it to a circle. is the universe is like a circle, and there's no beginning and no end. And I remember thinking on this and thinking about the circle. It does close, even though you continually can go around. There is a beginning and an end, the same point. And I think the Zen and Eastern thinkers would use the circle that wasn't quite completed. It was not from point to point. It had a small opening. And I think I always loved this idea that it will open to the beyond. But if I might be so humble to share with you that I saw it as a spiral. Because the spiral is open-ended, has no beginning. It can go both ways to infinity, can't it? It always made me think, the reason I chose spiral, and I like that more than circle, was that the observation by wise soul that I've heard, that you can never step into the same river twice. A river is continually changing. And such is life. You can never come back to or end up at the same place. It's different, moment by moment. But again, the idea of completion, to begin something and to end it, is as close as I can get to satisfaction for a job well done. In our life journey can be looked at as a circle. Hopefully we'll have evolved. Hopefully, upon completion, we'll have left the world even a slightly better place. Would be a well-earned, tremendous accomplishment. Almost as well done is that the world really never knew you were here. Which for most of us is really true, isn't it? Not many know that we were here. But we can contribute to the general good instead of the general bad. So my idea of this talk is full circle. And life is indeed, or can be, looked at as a circle. As a youth, as a newborn, a freshborn expression of life, we're helpless. We depend on care and nurturement from others. Without it, we will surely die. Of all life forms that we are familiar with on this planet, we're probably we are the most vulnerable of any life force at an early age. It takes us longer. Watch it look in the animal kingdom. Watch your kitties, how fast they grow up. And watch when the mom knows that it's time for them to move on. She will kick them out. Here in Taiwan, as long as you don't get married, your parents want to keep you as kittens or puppies as long as possible and keep you in the home. Whereas many of us in the Western world, 18, parents would wave goodbye. Okay, you're on your own. Yeah, different way to do things. But anyway, what's undeniable is the vulnerability of being a baby, an infant. On the other end, it's really interesting that as we get older and older, we return to the innocence of childhood. Especially the body's just not working as well anymore, and it continues to deteriorate until the time of our passing. Now, one of the things that old people share, among many things, is that they don't want to become a burden for their children. But in fact, most of us, in some extent, probably will. I've watched things change here in Taiwan, talking about offspring, talking about children. It's in recent memory, of course, Asian cultures really valued the male. They wanted a boy to keep their bloodline, to keep the name, to keep the family, the clan going. Everybody wanted a boy. Females were less desirable. In an agrarian society such as Taiwan, it's understandable that males were valued, not only for the aforementioned usefulness, they could work on the farm. But in my lifetime, and even my last 21 years here in Taiwan, I've watched that change. If you go for a walk in Taipei, and you watch who's with the elderly parents, who's with the elderly parents? It's always the daughter. And as a consequence, since the only kind of Social Security, they don't have a structure where that you get a pension, unless you're lucky to be in a teacher or a military, where you get a pension. If you work for the private sector, you probably won't get a pension for your old age. So your Social Security was that your children would care for you. Well, it turns out that when your boy goes off on his own, the only time you'll see him is when he comes and asks for money. He's out of money. And he'll show up. Otherwise, he's too busy. Yeah. but it's a daughter. Even after she's married, it's a daughter that you can depend on, or hope to depend on, to see you through your old age. So we're talking about this journey, full circle, to start out helpless, to end up helpless. We'll talk about commonalities that old people share. Well, the biggest and darkest and unspeakable one is the fear of death. As you get older, this becomes, for most who are still behind the veil of ignorance, becomes, for some, even terrifying. Talk about the fear of the unknown. Yeah. What's more unknown than if anything happens after death? One of the bad things I've told about living in a senior citizen home is that a lot of people will just be waiting to die. When you're around a lot of old people, it seems that almost constantly somebody's dying. Somebody around you. There's one less person at the breakfast table. So it's a constant reminder. My immediate response would be to try to help these people understand that as long as they are living, they should live. They should embrace life. They should read. They should educate. Start the piano. My good buddy started playing the piano at 70. Started painting at 66 or 67. And he's a role model. Great man. Because he knows that his secret fear, maybe not so secret, is dementia, which probably loss of faculties, loss of mental clarity, loss of memories. There's another commonality shared. So my friend told me that this was the motivator. That he does Tai Chi every morning. He exercises for the body, but he believes that intellectually he should be doing something as well. He studies English twice a week. And learning a language as you get older, we probably all know, is not an easy endeavor. So if I could share with these people, I would share my friends' philosophy, my friend's response to aging. Keep in mind my friend's response to the fear of losing his mental faculties, dementia. That this can be maybe prolonged or even counteracted by intellectual pursuits. So I would share that with them. They've found that having a pet, keeping animals, bringing animals into the senior citizen environments, senior citizen communities, is really nurturing. They need to take care of something. Hence the really beautiful role of grandparents. I believe that around me I see grandparents abused, where the young people would just drop the kids and pick them up on the weekend. This is elder abuse in my mind. Grandparents should have the luxury of being with the children when they want to be with the children, and being able to not be with the children when they don't want to be. I had a neighbor, an elderly woman, who was caring for two young people, two toddlers. And at the same time, she was trying to recycle not as a supplement to an income. So she was busy squashing bottles and doing all the sorting and the things, and she'd have the children by the front door, and the front door opened right up onto the street, although not a busy street, more like a lane or an alley. But the youngsters would be in the doorway, and if they wandered too far or something, and she was nearby still doing her necessary labors, she was constantly yelling at the kids, because it was physically hard for her to get up, and physically more difficult to get up and go get them or offer them some entertainment. So the children were pretty much left up to their own devices, and as long as they didn't go too far where she would worry that they were in danger of a car, they were pretty much free. But basically, as her neighbor across the street, it was my observation that she would yell from sunrise to sunset. And again, we talked about elder abuse, but this was definitely both abuse of the children. Sometimes it's a necessity, but sometimes I think the young people seem to take advantage of their parents as built-in babysitters. But I would also share with the elders, if they haven't had a practice of meditation, if they weren't familiar with meditation, I would encourage and suggest and work with them to begin and to nurture and to maintain this important spiritual practice. Meditation would serve for, well, the advantages of meditation in our everyday life can help make us more patient. It can help us feel fulfilled. It can help us in the process of taming the mind and the emotions. And it can also lead to its ultimate purpose, is the journey of inquiry to another full circle, the spiritual full circle, which is infinitely more important than the physical, from birth to death, the physical full circle. This spiritual inquiry, this questioning, this reflecting will help us on our, more than health, is the key, in my opinion, to our spiritual, to a successful spiritual journey. All the while refusing to cling to or to hold on to the end game, enlightenment. This is something that neither should be sought or clung to. As those that have had this experience would agree with the Buddha when, after all his efforts and striving for enlightenment, gave up. And gave up simply means surrender. That's the key. Surrender these goals. Give up the desire. Because desire will ultimately just lead you to right back to the physical planes. Even though what you desire is so much more than a new car or a girlfriend or whatever. It's still desire. And that desire is a limitation in the process. So if you can't cling to, if you can't seek after this, well, what do you do? And the first answer comes to mind is just breathe. Just be. Keep it on a personal level, because that's where it needs to be. Personal level, that the goal is within. But the obstacles are not external obstacles. The obstacles to this full circle, this completion, is internal. It's your mind. It's clinging to your mind as an authority, an arbitrator on what's real. Your mind has absolutely no clue. It's good for a lot of things, but certainly not this. So the process, they always talk about, and we come back to this over and over because we're talking about full circle, they're talking about stilling and quieting. And I have a much more modest suggestion, one that was successful for me, is to tame it. Maybe ultimate control would be shutting it down completely, stillness or silence. Maybe that's not obtainable for it. Certainly, it's possible, within the realm of possibilities. I would like to think that someone has done it, but that's thinking, isn't it? Do you see that? But I'd like to feel that it's within the realm of possibilities that ultimately quieting and stilling the mind is achievable. But I settled for taming. Taming, it was a twofold process, like so many things in my life. Apparent duality. The first was to recognize it as solely a source of entertainment, not of guidance. If we needed guidance, it didn't come from thinking. It came from, in my case, definitely came from here. And when I say here, I don't mean the necessarily feelings as we understand it, because feelings, desires, it's all closely linked. It's more like it's a better brain, it's a better mind, at least in my experience. And the second thing was about the mind was that it allowed the ego. It nurtured, it fed our egos. And ego is something that's we want to overcome. This is something that we actually need to conquer. In a different sense than conquering the mind so that it's ultimately still and quiet. But conquering the ego in its falsity. It's a lie. A self-constructed. It's us lying to ourselves. And it's an effort to control. Well, the surrender is admitting that control is something that is very limited, very little. I would venture to say nothing that we can really control. So this journey on the mind began with surrendering. Surrendering we come back to, coupled with meditation. Part and parcel of meditation, this art, this skill, this necessity of surrender can't be understated. And it's in this process of surrendering, is true surrendering. And I mentioned surrendering keeps having multiple, it's very sophisticated, it has multiple levels. We surrender to the reality that we certainly don't know what is real. It's certainly not what our ego tells us. It's certainly not what our senses, as we're able to interpret them, are sharing with us. But there's another surrender, yet another surrender, when you have to surrender the very spiritual being, the concept of you being a spiritual being that got you to the point where you had your aha moment. This is an identity. I'm a spiritual seeker. I'm a practitioner of the art of spirituality. But this yet has to be surrendered. You end up with, I am that I am, which is inclusive of all of us and everything. In the universe that's not a closed circle, the universe that continually is spiraling. With no beginning and certainly no end.